that.
Yeah, I think the number was around 470, just under $500, wasn't it?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you guys have any thoughts on, I mean, if we were to use some of this money to go that route on what would be best as far as an actual computer or tablets or what you guys would like to see or anything of that nature?
I would like, this is David, I'd like to go forward with, entertain that and go forward with the electronics or, laptops or whatever.
Okay, and what do you guys as a council think? Are you thinking laptop, an actual computer with a keyboard, or some kind of a tablet? I guess it might kind of depend on personal preference, but maybe what would work best just for the current council and as well as any other council members in the future.
This is Justin.
Price you cited, Nathan, is for a purchase where, please?
Are you talking what business?
What business, yes.
I don't know that. We'd have to look and see where the best prices were.
I think that's to be determined where it's set in stone, yeah.
Yep. We'd have to probably figure out what exactly we wanted or what we thought we needed, and then kind of research from there, and that would kind of depend on what business we went with.
Nathan, this is David again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, I'd like to keep in mind, I'm not sure the expenditures of what the city has incurred, with Memorial Hall and extra from this coronavirus, that we stock up on some cleaning supplies or that nature, that maybe use some of the funds to add to the arsenal we have for future going into all this, because we don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And just so we don't get caught short with it, whatever we need. And then after that, I think we can throw some ideas around what to do, because I don't believe, unless you go hog wild on the cleaning supplies, you never know, but it could, I don't think it'll exhaust all the money, so we can come up with some later ideas, on somebody shoot something out there and we'll talk about it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. We did at a previous meeting. I don't remember which one it was. We spoke about getting some extra boxes. We didn't want to go crazy enough to have them for the next 20 years. But yeah, absolutely, get some extra cleaning supplies in bulk and be able to, have some of that stuff on hand, just like you said, to be able to, because we don't know how long it's going to last. So that's absolutely something that will be done. I still think we're going to have a good chunk of money left. So if we're generally in favor of doing electronics, computers, or something of that nature, then I'd be willing to talk about that a little more in depth.
Okay.
This is Peter. I have a question about the disbursement. I think we've talked about it in past meetings, but if we don't spend the money, can it remain in the city's coffers? Can it be applied towards general expenditures of the city?
No. So what would happen if we were not to use all the money is that money that we did not spend would go back to the state and then would be actually moved into another entity. They would decide where else it went.
I see.
Levi Shank.
Hi, Levi.
Hey, Nathan, this is Justin. I had a couple of things I wanted to ask or make points to too.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first thing was, with the expenses so far, does that include a laptop for Janice yet, or the clerk?
No.
We talked about buying one. Okay, so we still need to buy one of those?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So the items that were that were chosen to spend. We bought the printer and a couple other small things. A fingerprint ID reader for the computer, and what was the other? Oh, a stand for the laptop, but the computer itself has not been purchased yet, so that will still come out of there.
Okay, and then the other thing, I guess.
Not good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
It's all right. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask. For the back for the council, I sent a recommendation of the last purchase because the city doesn't have credit card at the current time. We started looking towards Office Depot. They didn't have the same model nor for the same price. Janice sent me a laptop that she thought was comparable, and she was right. It was the best thing that Office Depot had. It wasn't quite as good of a deal, but I agreed. I went and did an independent search of what laptops Office Depot had in stock, and it was the best option there. So I confirmed that to her and said, probably as good as anything. So I guess if we're waiting on something else at this point, I don't know what, or maybe we just haven't got around to it. I'm not trying to get it on anyone's case for timing. Just saying, as far as I know, it's clear to launch. So.
Okay.
I have a comment, Peter.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Has anybody approached Michael Hardy about a laptop, either new or used? Do we necessarily want a new one? I'm not sure how much use it's going to get.
Well, so we had talked about with Janice's computer, that will actually become her main computer, so it will get used quite a bit. I mean, during the regular work business day, and then just to have the option to be able to work remotely if needed, or for any other purpose needed, that she would actually be able to take that with her. So that will get, I think, a purchase of a new one would be best, just because it will get used quite a bit.
That presupposes that she'll be in an area where there's Wi-Fi, wireless communication.
Correct. If needed. I mean, if that's what is required for an internet connection, then she would be somewhere that she could use that. If not, then there's also the ability to work on things offline as well.
That raises the question of security. If she's working in an area with unsecured Wi-Fi, does she have wireless communication at home? Presumably she'd be doing some of the work at home.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
the city would have to provide her with wireless connectivity.
She has wireless at home, a secured network that she could use.
Okay.
But
Nathan, I still had a couple more things I wanted to ask about.
yeah, good.
Still do that. So back to David's point, and with the other conversations about technology stuff or laptop or tablet things, I think we have to think about what our primary purpose is going to be of using that. So obviously it's probably going to be to read emails or to get emails or to process emails, and also to read emails that come through, from Janice or from anyone obviously here, if we want to check websites that people have things they're bringing. So I don't know how much computing power we need. So a tablet might be worthwhile, either like an iPad or like a Microsoft Surface Pro or something like that. But both of those standard don't come with a keyboard. So I would say that if we look at the tablets, that we look at the keyboard too, just because it's a pain of trying to type on one of those. I have a Surface Pro, and I have an iPad, and I have keyboards for both. But when I don't use the keyboard, it's not very fun to use. I mean, you can use it to browse things, but you can't type very well. And so I would just say, if that's the route we decide to go, that besides the actual tablet itself, we look at a keyboard, unless if we go with a laptop or like a Chromebook or something like that as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. my only personal thought or opinion on the tablets are just kind of ease of use. If you were to go, I don't know, maybe there's something in town that you want to take a picture of, or something that caught your attention, or just they're a little bit more mobile than a laptop. I'd leave that up to the council either way, but I'd point taken with the keyboard and cases, accessories, anything like that that we need for them would definitely add cost. So.
But again, then I would say, and this was a number that we talked about several months ago, just for planning purposes tonight, if we got, again, somebody threw out $400 or $500, that's fine, but just for planning purposes to see what the remainder is, if we said, we want to say $800 or $1,000 is like just for planning purposes, times 5 council members plus the mayor, so times 6, we're looking at, if it's $1,000, it's $6,000, which leaves the city with $4,000 left to spend on other things. Not to say that we have to spend that much money, but if people wanted to throw out numbers to see what they want to plan for other things, I think that's at least for right now.
Yeah, I agree. So the other thing I thought too, I thought I'd mention it real quick, just because we're there. We do have the laptop donated by Vista too that I can use, and actually I would prefer a laptop personally for myself. So I don't know if that's something that council would still want to purchase one for the mayor and have the chance of it sitting, or if there's definitely maybe the code enforcement person could use it. That'd be a really handy tool. So if we did end up buying 6 units instead of 5, I think it could be put to good use.
This is Peter. I have a question. You mentioned the code enforcement officer, but would it not be useful to have Scott with a computer as well?
Yeah, we have a laptop here that Steven's gone through and kind of cleaned up or updated that we'll be able to get to Scott if they need it. So I don't know that necessarily buying a new one, it may or may not be needed.
Okay, thanks.
But getting back to Justin's other point too, of the money left over, there's still going to be some money there. And to give a number on cleaning supplies and other stuff that we may stock up on, I don't really know the best route to go about that, but we'll have a little bit more there. And so, like Justin said, if we want to shoot for maybe saying that we have 4,000 left, to get some ideas flowing on what to use the rest on.
This is David. I got a quick question for everybody.
Yeah, good.
After we expended, we got our electronics and we're satisfied, and cleaning supplies, we have stuff left. Can we distribute that to any businesses that have, going forward, have additions, add more plexiglass or do whatever, have more expenses? Can we distribute it to those businesses, or are we locked into just using it us and then giving it back to the government?
Janice is here with me, and she's saying that we cannot expend more money to the businesses. That number that we set for them and originally with Margie is it. So this is money that we would need to expend some way, shape, or form by ourselves as a city.
That we go forward and get as much as we can out of it. And just so everybody knows, my main push for this is, I know a lot of people, I don't have a smartphone. You guys do a lot of stuff on your smartphones, and they just do about anything you want them to do, it seems like. But I look at it as a security and I guess it would be, anything we do over here or do on our computers is subject to public scrutiny and forensics. They can come back and everything you have on there, they're going to know if there's ever such a time. And I was just trying to isolate, public City Hall business on City Hall equipment and not personal. This is the only thing. I mean, that's one of the bigger reasons I was kind of pushing this, since we've been given opportunity for it.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think, and that what you said about the opportunity, that's perfect. We have this opportunity, and I think we should utilize it to move a little bit into the future, or maybe even bring it up to present times. But yeah, I agree, and that if a council member chooses to not use that device, I mean that's totally their call. However, I think if most people presented with the opportunity to have a device to use, I think they probably would. So I agree with you.
And that device would follow the council position or the elected official or whatever going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody quits or somebody else takes over. It's the property of the city or the city government.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I kind of envision. And I do apologize because I was under the impression on our prior meeting that voted for the 5,000 wanted to keep it, and we ended up giving it to EDC. I was under the impression that what we kept, we could do what we wanted, buy the electronics or whatever we're going to do, and then we could personally distribute that to businesses ourselves. So maybe I don't know where I was led to believe that, but that's what I thought from the original conception of all this going on. And
This is Justin too. I believe that David is. I agree with David. I thought that Margie said if we wanted to come back and give her more money later, we could do that as well. I didn't think there was ever a deadline that if the city wanted to distribute money or funds to businesses or to the EDC to distribute, because I know there was other businesses that applied that did not receive any funds. So I think we should double check that.
Yeah, and I think the hang up there, or maybe the reason for a little bit of confusion, and I will double check just to make sure, because I don't want to say something that I've mistaken on and it's not proper. But yeah, we had a deadline. Janice is right here. She's saying that we had the ability to do that before those funds were distributed, but once those funds were distributed, then that was the final number. But I will check on that again just to make sure. I don't want to give out the wrong answer.
Could you send us an email when you get a resolution to that,
Absolutely.
Nathan?
Yep. I will do that as soon as I can. So if I can get a hold of Margie tonight or early in the morning, I'll let you know.
Well, Nathan, this is Justin again. At the last meeting, I think Stephen talked about a website and some other technology things that maybe besides a tablet or a laptop or something for council members, but also something like that for the city is there. I think that while some of it we can only pay for a little bit, we can't pay for it 3 years in advance. I think those things that were brought up and discussed, I think, have merit. So I would like to see those things added to our list to be acquired, like Zoom. Zoom is one, or some kind of virtual meeting deal, and then a website as well, and then the tablet, the hardware, I guess that technology.
Yeah, I agree. I think Stephen made a good point too when he talked about that, and I'll let him have the floor here in just a few seconds. But there's some stuff elsewhere that we can kind of clean up to make that going forward easier to pay for. So if we inquire something now that, like you said, we can't pay for it 3 years in advance, so if it's going to cost us monthly or annually or whatever that might be, I think there's places that we could find that money pretty easily. Stephen, do you have anything to add on that? On some of those things that Justin touched on?
Yeah, I mean, they're good points. I have no objection to it, and we can add it for as long as it is, but I mean, you're talking about $15 per month for Zoom. So 2 months, $30, and then the website hosting will cost about $5 a month. So there's $10. So actually, it's about $40 worth. I mean, it's not going to significantly change our budgeting, but I mean, we need it going forward. Generally, the website for sure. The Zoom, as far as after COVID, maybe that's a little less sure, but I've been looking at that more in terms of if we can get rid of at least one CenturyLink line, we can hopefully free up the budget to pay for it out of what's already been approved in the long term, because as I've expressed to the council before, I don't really want to take on subscriptions that become a burden past when the CRF funds are gone. So I think those two things can easily be taken care of a different way, but it's not going to make a huge difference for what we're looking for here, but still a good thing to pursue.
Do you think with any of those other, you mentioned Zoom and the website, is there other initial costs that we will incur, that I mean significant costs, that you can think of for hardware, software, or anything to do with some of those updates?
The only thing that I can think of becomes more pertinent when we start to have some in-person meetings again. So right now, and also a reminder just to any of the guests on the call, we went into executive session last week at City Hall after looking up on the city's website, on the state website, that it's permissible for city councils to meet for up to 10 people. So it would be legal, as far as I understand, unless, Nathan, you had found out something in the subsequent week that I'm not aware of. It would be legal for us to be having the city council members at City Hall right now in person if we wish to. We're all at home as far as I know, but we could do that. In such a situation, the Zoom would not have as much direct benefit, and we could still use it as a method for communicating with the public. But if we were seated around the table, as is the traditional configuration, our ability to put audio and video out to the public so that they could participate remotely changes our hardware needs a little bit. We could probably use a camera and a good omnidirectional microphone that would sit in the middle of the table. So those are things that I think could very much be arguably COVID related, because we'll still have digital and remote obligations even once the city council decides to meet in person again, and that is directly as a consequence of COVID. So there's that, but other than those things, no. I mean, I think we do everything we can reasonably do on supplies. You know, I know when this started, we saw there was some report of us finding a bunch of masks from Mount St. Helens. I mean, there's obviously a limit to, things go bad. Even alcohol, isopropyl alcohol goes bad over time, and Clorox wipes dry out and all that kind of stuff. So I think we should be prudent about thinking, things that could last a long time, we should probably be a little bit more liberal in our purchasing of. Things that have a short expiration time, probably not so much. But I'm guessing that by the time you buy all the cleaning supplies that are reasonable to buy, we probably haven't made a huge dent in the scale. And it sounds to me like I'm guessing we're talking about at least $7,000 to play with. And we can't do anything significant on software, really, other than, well, actually, does the number that we quoted earlier include the 3 copies of Office that Office Depot is still due to us? But those 3 Office copies are thrown into that number of already purchased, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, I mean, that's really the biggest software you can get, because everyone wants to do subscription methods these days and make you pay forever and ever and ever. So, and we got confirmation from KD that when you're on subscription, you can only charge for the months that are within the time. So it largely makes subscription services irrelevant from a budgetary perspective. So that's software, and yeah, for the hardware stuff, I would say that iPads are going to be a much better bet for two big reasons I would say would be notable in my mind. One is that you can't screw them up, really. You can break them, you can drop it, crack it, that kind of stuff. But as far as the software on it, you can't significantly damage and screw up the software on an iPad. You can't accidentally download a Trojan horse or get a virus on an iPad. There is very little maintenance. An iPad either works or it doesn't, and when it's working, it's pretty much in a perfect configuration. There are multiple configurations based upon your preferences, but if it's working, it is essentially fine. That would be one thing because of the low maintenance and the high degree of security. And the second is kind of related to it, is that the iPads, depending on which model you go with, also has Touch ID or Face ID, which means that there's biometric security, such that you're not just relying upon a passcode or a number sequence. You would put your thumbprint, fingerprint on it, or it would recognize you based upon your face, such that it is hardware protected in ways that traditionally, statistically, this is not meant to be a slam on any of our members. I'm just saying statistically, if we hand you a laptop, some of you will use a laptop that has a word in it that could be brute forced within an hour, or guessed basically by someone who knows something about your life. And that's just the way the majority of the American public works. So with an iPad, at least we have a degree of security that you can't have those kind of problems with it. The other benefits that it would have is that I agree you would probably want a keyboard with it. With the advent of iOS 14, Apple has improved their support of working with a pencil. You can draw on it. So David and Nathan and I met on Sunday afternoon to discuss the handbook, and I was marking up the handbook PDF as we were going through the meeting, doing highlighting, putting notes on it, that type of thing. If you were using a keyboard for that interaction, there'd be nowhere to type. You don't use a keyboard to highlight a certain section of text, really. And you can do most of the same features with your finger, but it's really pretty handy to, when you are taking notes, to just be able to draw on it. And it also has text recognition, so you can take, if you're assuming that your handwriting is good enough, which it's not terribly particular, but if you have a doctor's handwriting, you might have trouble. But it can do text recognition so that it can turn your notes into text. So if and it kind of depends on how high of an iPad you want to go. And here's an interesting discussion, and I'll shut up, because one of the things I think we found out last week is last time we got on this topic, I talked for far too long as we reviewed that audio recording, is that if we have a big bunch of money to play with, there's a question of how good of an iPad do you get? Because at the end of the day, it sounds like any way we slice this, we're going to be giving money back to Inslee. So I guess it kind of depends on how much money you want to give and where are the ethical considerations. I've made it very clear that I want to see all the money coming to Harrington that we can, and that I don't want to see funds going back to Inslee. But there is a point where, just to be open, that within myself, I'm wondering, do we just get the most expensive iPad that we can afford within the amount of money left, just so that it doesn't go back to Inslee? Because theoretically, if it goes back to the state, they'll use it for something else that benefits the general public. At some point, we probably have some type of a moral question or obligation. I don't know where that is for me. You guys will have to decide where that is for you. But, if you bought 5 iPad Pros with a Magic Keyboard and a pencil, you could do that within the budget that we're talking about at about $1,000 a pop, or maybe a little bit more. If you got the 11-inch iPad Pro with a pencil and a Magic Keyboard attachment, you could probably do that for about $1,000 a pop, and that would fit in there. That's kind of the high end, because that's like the best device iPad that Apple has to offer. On the other hand, if you got the low-end iPad, which also supports the pencil, you get a keyboard case. In fact, I've had really good luck getting refurbished ones off of Amazon. They've come to me in really good condition, but your guys' choice. You can get a keyboard case for like $30 by Zag, which is a pretty reputable case manufacturer. You can get the iPad for like $250 to $300, depending on where you get it from in the sales. By the way, I'm not quoting prices for Office Depot. Their prices are bad, and the last time we bought Office from them, they gave us Xbox Game Passes. So I'm really hoping we can have a credit card to go purchase from competent and otherwise good retailers to purchase from. But I'm saying generally what's out there. So you have, like I said, $3 for the keyboard case. You can get the iPad for as low as $250 in some situations, and the pencil will run you somewhere around $70. So that's like the low end, and there's probably tax on that, right? So, you know, shipping maybe, depending on how you order it. So, you know, there's a little bit of wiggle room in that. But
So it sounds like we definitely need to decide what caliber of stuff that we want to buy, and specifically what devices. Sorry, Stephen, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was done.
Okay. Well, since we're on that subject, what does the rest of the council think? I mean, does anyone have preferences, or what do they think will work the best? It sounds like tablets definitely kind of where we're headed. I guess I'd yield the floor to anyone else that has any comments.
This is David Nathan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the other night, Stephen mentioned we met, and I was impressed. I liked his gizmo he had there, or what he was using. So I would recommend going forward along those lines.
Okay.
But however, you know, the council members, but then somebody mentioned Scotty, and then the code, you know, Jay Gossett, the code enforcement officer. So are we looking at just 5 and one for the mayor, 6, 7, 8, to get up to 8 of them? Just a thought. I don't know. You know, entertain it.
No, that'd be a good point for discussion. Absolutely, is exactly how many we want to buy, and like I said, I'm personally fine that the laptop that I'm using now that was donated. I'm fine with that, but going forward, is somebody else going to want a tablet or something different? I don't know. I guess I'd let the council kind of hash that out as far as how many units to purchase. We know we're going to buy a laptop for Janice, and then 5 units for the council, and then after that, I'd say I'd be open to comment on that.
And I'd just like to add one more thing. Go ahead, Justin.
Go ahead. Well, so real quick, you mentioned the code enforcement person, so we have to think about COVID, though, about how this, CRF funds. So currently, like, we have to think, you know, right now, what are they doing or how are they doing it? So, or if you have to close down the city hall, that's why we'd have the clerk would have a laptop, or the council, so they could do these things. I don't know if that would. This is something I don't know if the code enforcement person requirement would work. But the mayor needs one. So technically, if the mayor gets one, but then we have an existing laptop, obviously if they want to swap it out later, I think that works. But I think we have to be able to pass the litmus test, the red tape test of do we, why would, some of these positions need it or not.
Yeah.
So but again, Nathan, the fact that we have one that you might use now, again, theoretically, we could say we're going to give that to the code enforcement person, in theory. But then later you realize that you like the laptop better and that the iPad is better for that position because they can walk around and take pictures and do whatever else. So maybe there's a swap there later, but I think we have to pass that red face test first. And then last thing I would say about it too is I'm not typically one to spend this money on this type of stuff, but like Steven said and what's been said before, if we don't spend the money now, it's going to go back to the state and back to Olympia and be used somewhere else. That this is money that we can somehow make our community or our process in our community better. I would try to say, let's spend as much as we can of it here in town and buy it online, because then the sales tax, when it gets shipped here, it comes back to Harrington as well. So those are just some of the things I would say.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it, and it's good thought on what you mentioned about what's necessary and what can actually go for the code enforcement. Whether we buy one for the mayor, that's a point well taken. Making sure that it's spent correctly.
Nathan, this is David.
Yeah.
And I agree with Jeff. So he has very good points. But right now, currently, the code enforcement officer, what does he record an infraction? Does he have a way to take pictures or record what's going on?
Right.
I mean, if we could eke it, that would, as mentioned, that would fit into our program, but you're getting it past the smell test and getting it through, that's a different thing. But currently, what does the officer do? How does he record it? Is it just word of mouth site?
Personal electronic equipment.
Well, see, if he has personal electronic equipment?
Correct.
Okay, that's where, now, see, I don't know.
He does have the second cell phone line now, but that was just recent. The previous time it was all personal equipment. So.
Well, yeah, they're all good arguments, but going forward, just for a little tidbit here, if there's an issue, if we're worried about the bunny and all that stuff, I don't know if it's legal for me to do this, or I mean, I would offer to front the money and get reimbursed whatever we need.
Okay.
If that's an issue or a problem, but I'd be willing to do that. So we can go forward this, we can drop the hammer any time.
Okay.
And go forward. So that shouldn't let you put your mind at ease. I mean, we can go and do it if we want to.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're working on some different means there. We'll get that figured out, but I appreciate that. So I think, as far as coming to a decision on that, I think we've kind of figured that out, that's one route we want to go. I think we should probably entertain a motion, and I don't know if we do it so much per device or how we want to word that motion to purchase those units.
Back number-wise to understand where we're at. So what was the number that you said initially?
10,139.33. So 10,100. It's a good round number.
So let's say that with the laptop purchased from Office Depot that we're at 9,000. And what do you think is the go crazy number that you end up spending on cleaning supplies? Like, take whatever you think you actually would do and then add half again, just so that we're budgeting conservatively.
Yeah, that's kind of tough for me. I'd say maybe as low as 500 or something. The other thing I will add real quick too is we will have some continuing additional cleaning wages. So we've stepped up cleaning for the hall and the Memorial Hall both. So there'd be a little bit there too, but that would be without having numbers right in front of me. That would be kind of a shoot from the hip guess.
It'll be
8,000.
Yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're down to 8,000 left to spend. Do you guys want to do the camera and microphone for city council meetings?
And that was,
Yes.
explain that one again. Yes, but is that on the laptops, or is that just in our meetings?
No,
What's
this
that
would
again?
be, so I would postulate that when we start meeting together, the first step that we'll have towards that is that we will be in person at City Hall. The city council members, the mayor, and Janice will be in person, and we will endeavor to make sure that the rest of the public can watch the YouTube stream or be on Zoom to be able to communicate in if they want to make public comment. They would have either option. If they're just watching the YouTube stream, YouTube is not two-way, it's one-directional. But if they got on the Zoom, they could communicate with us. But in either situation, to broadcast out of the City Hall what we're doing as a group, we need to have a microphone to pick all of us up as we discuss, which we don't really have because, as we sit around that table that's there, you could be pretty far away. So you need a good quality omnidirectional mic to have a chance that it's going to sit in the middle of the table, especially if we're all kind of distancing a little bit from each other. That mic's going to take a big spread. So it's going to be an expensive, good quality microphone. It would also up the quality of our audio in general for any recordings or anything else going forward. And then if we wanted to put the video of that stream up into YouTube and Zoom, we would need a camera that's used for that purpose.
And how much you think all that would run, Stephen?
Well, so the GoPros these days you could use for that purpose. They make a nice quality video out of that. So I'm guessing you probably say about $400 for the camera. And like I said, that microphone is not just going to be any microphone for $30 from Walmart. You're going to have to get a good quality microphone that reaches a number of feet to try and get us all picked up. So we're probably talking about a $200 mic. So you got about $600 if you really want to do the audio and video from City Hall up what I would say is right. You get like a Yeti microphone if anyone knows what a Yeti microphone is, and a GoPro camera, and that should give you pretty good quality audio and video.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess first of all we got to figure out how much all this is going to cost, and then we'll talk.
Well, and that's why I'm working down, right? Because we started at 10.1. Janice's laptop takes us to 9. Cleaning supplies and extra wages takes us to 8. If we do that, if we do the camera and the microphone, that takes us to around 7.4. Or you could just round it up or round it down, so to speak, and say 7.250. So that's $7,000 to buy hardware with. And I think, to me, when you talk about how many devices do we buy and how high a quality do we buy, you have to have the number that you're playing with first to make those decisions. So that's why I'm working us backward to the iPad discussion so that we know how much money we're looking at.
Okay. I'd just like to add, is that everything, Councilman? I mean, we got electronics, we have cleaning supplies, and I guess, is there anything else that we can add to, or if we need to? I don't think we're going to need to at this point, but is there anything else that needs to be addressed? I don't have any. Can't think of any, but like the Memorial Hall, there's functions coming up. Is there something that we need to do with that?
This is Peter. I have a question, Nathan.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Am I correct in recalling that any purchase has to be arguably COVID-related?
Correct.
Okay.
That's a good question, though, David. That's something I was kind of wanting to throw out there as we work these numbers, is to see if there's anything else, any other ideas or reasons that we would need to spend money on something else.
Another thing we could probably do for the Memorial Hall is a hand sanitizing station.
I'm sorry, Steven, say that again.
A hand sanitizing station. So there's two ways you could do it. You could wall mount a hand sanitizer, or you could I've also seen freestanding ones, which would give the city the option of putting them other places than City Hall as well. But, just for some person to go by, they've shook someone's hand, and then they go and squirt the alcohol solution on their hand, and then you're good to go, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do something like that. We have just the pump bottles here now that seem to suffice, but maybe the Memorial Hall, something like that would be a little bit more appropriate. I mean,
Do one here and one over there.
yeah, we could put one in the City Hall as well. That'd be up to the council whether they think that that's something that's maybe needed, or we've been buying them just in the pump bottles, and it seems to work
And I have
pretty well.
a big refill bottle.
This is David again. Has there been any special consideration or extra consideration given to the restrooms up there in the park? Has anything, the COVID, has it affected anything along those lines? Because those seem to be very popular. Just kind of curious. Maybe Scotty could answer that. Has there been extra? What's been needed up there? Anything extra, I guess, was my question.
Scotty, do you want to touch on that?
I would say we could use some more money for cleaning supplies, plus some sort of hand sanitizer station. But I don't know how you can do it outside the building. We'd have to do it in each restroom, I would think.
Okay.
I mean, they got water and soap in them, but is that good enough?
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to get some more cleaning supplies and make sure that part's taken care of. The hand sanitizer, maybe that's a candidate for those stations that Steven's talking about. If that's something we think we need. I mean, the soap and water is in there. I don't know if sanitizer needed on top of it, or either way.
We got bio soap in there, and also, is there something we can actually? Is there money that we could actually rebuild the bathrooms at the Memorial Hall to make them better? I mean, it's got wooden stalls, and it could be stainless steel stalls. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, again, we'd have to go back to see if we could directly tie something like that to COVID. My initial answer off the cuff would be probably not, but I mean, we have our contacts that we can talk to.
Rebuild, but yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, Scotty, because I was thinking along the same lines earlier. I don't think you could do a major rebuild and probably arguably be able to fit it in, but I think there's some things you could do, and some of these may or may not work well depending on what the power requirements would be and stuff, but you could probably argue that touchless dispensers for the paper towels could probably fit, because in a COVID world, the less things you're touching, the better off you are. You could probably go so far as to argue you could have there's retrofit touchless things for toilets and for the urinals or even the faucets. There are also, I know there are products that are made for the doors that allow you to put a thing on the door such that a person can open or close a door. Of course, you couldn't unlatch a door, but it allows you to move the door with your foot,
Right.
so that you don't have to touch the handle. So I think there's some retrofitting we could do, but I don't know if you could really do I wish we could. That's why I was thinking towards that direction. But I think we could maybe do some upgrades in there. Really, it would be everything centered around people being able to use the bathrooms without using their hands as much as possible.
Right, and I think we can upgrade the fixtures for the paper towels, and I don't know about toilet paper in the sinks with electric eye sinks. They're all old school, so it would be able to be done.
I think that'd be something to touch base with on our someone at Commerce, or to see exactly kind of like Steven did with the front loading of subscription stuff, is maybe talk to Katie or somebody else, whoever we need to see if that fits in, or is that a little bit too far out and they're not going to allow that. Just reading quickly, it kind of just generalizes mainly the product, the PPE, so the hand sanitizer and the mask, and expenses for the acquisition and distribution of medical and protective supplies. Does that fit under that? I don't know that, but it's something that we could definitely explore, especially if we need to expend more money. If we choose to go a certain route with our computers and we have a chunk of change left and say, okay, now what do we do? Then maybe that's an option.
I agree totally, Mr. David. Those are all good ideas, and going forward, Chrono might not be around forever, but just general sanitary procedure going forward, with colds and flus and stuff, it would benefit us greatly if we could get that done, put that into the mix. But it sounds like those gizmos are pretty expensive, so I don't know how far we want to go with it. They're all great ideas. I love them, but I yield. Go ahead.
I know, Steven, you were kind of working backwards on the numbers, kind of trying to get down to figure out what we wanted to spend for electronic stuff. I think if we can do that going forward, just with that number that you have going now, and then if we can still make a decision on the on what we want to spend on our computers, and then maybe go forward from there. I mean, it's a little bit backwards, but see if there is money left over, see if we can get into some of those other ideas. I just don't know how to hammer something like that out right now, just not knowing prices and whether we're allowed to purchase some of those things.
Yeah, I think some of this is going to go into next week. Since we do meet, well, is next week a meeting or is it a workshop?
Yeah, it's planned workshop.
So I don't know exactly where to leave it, but I can say this. My preference of expenditures, if I had it, so three categories as I see it, because, basically where we're at $8,000, right? And how I got there, again, 10-1 minus Janice's laptop is 9, minus cleaning supplies is 8. So the way I see it, the number that we're working from right now is 8. I would like probably first to see the camera and the microphone done, because I think those will become pertinent as soon as we start. This council starts meeting in person again, to keep the public safe at home, and then also just even in general, even after we can have everyone back at city council, it will increase our ability to communicate with the general public and to also have recordings that are immediately publicly available and don't rely upon the recording device that we're currently using, which has been working fine. I'm not meaning to slam it, but it does, there's interference that comes and there's pops and crackles that are unpleasant, and I think we could definitely improve the situation. So that would be number one for me. After that would be the improvements that we could make to, like, the sanitizing stations at the Memorial Hall, the improvements to the bathrooms up at the park that Scotty mentioned, and the improvements to the bathrooms potentially at the Memorial Hall. And then third in priorities, in my opinion, would be the iPad. This is all predicated upon affirmation from Margie that we cannot give her any more money at this point. Because if we can give more money to our businesses, that would probably sit as my number 1 or 2 priority at this point. So, I yield.
This is Peter. From the very beginning of discussion of laptop computers, I've been sort of lukewarm on the subject, principally because of the logistics of having, if people travel with computers normally, they're going to have a second computer to have to deal with. It's just awkward, whereas they could use their personal computer for city business. But I agree with Stephen, and I think Scotty raises a good point. At least the men's room and the Memorial Hall is downright primitive. And if we can use those funds arguably for improvement of that, both toilets, men's and women's, I think that takes a priority over 5 laptops. In my mind, anyway.
Okay, so going forward right now, sounds like we have a few different options. Some of those are pending. Some questions for other people that aren't with us tonight. Do we want to go ahead and move forward on allowing a certain amount of money for purchases of computers? I know that's one we've talked about quite a bit, and then to try to meet again and decide and get some of those questions answered, or what's your guys' thought about on how to go forward? Just keeping in mind the deadline at the end of next month.
Excuse me. Is there are we sure that's the deadline?
Yes.
I thought originally it was, like coming up the end of October.
Originally it was October. It's been extended 1 month.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. I would make a motion that we move forward with the laptops and everything we discussed tonight, and get some numbers and go for it, and see where we stand after that. This is Levi. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any more discussion?
Yeah. Peter. Based on the conversation we've had tonight, I feel the motion may be premature. I don't think the council has arrived at a consensus on how we want to disperse these funds. And frankly, I feel it would be useful to get some hard prices on laptops and renovation of toilets and a microphone and camera system that Stephen has proposed before I would be comfortable voting on any of this. I would propose that we allow the motion to go down to defeat and get some hard prices and have another special council meeting. Given the amount of money we're talking about, I don't think that's an unreasonable proposal.
This is Justin. I will echo what Stephen said too about confirming with Margie Hall if the option. I guess I would say I would be. I'm not in favor of this motion at this point. To what Peter said, it's just too premature, and I would like to find out, to confirm with Margie or not, if we can if that option for distributing funds, having the EDC distribute funds to businesses in the Harrington area is off the table. Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to maybe have another special meeting at some point. We can get some of these questions answered, get some prices together, some stuff like that, and be fully prepared. I feel like we've spoken enough about where the council wants to go on some of the options of spending this money, and then we can get back together and have the answers to those questions, prices, anything like that, to then go forward with actually pulling the trigger on purchasing things or possibly giving money to businesses or whatever that might entail.
So there's been a motion and a second. I call the question.
So do we want to...
Question's been called.
Okay.
So you have to say yes or no, basically.
So I will So do we vote on it, or do we just ask to redact the motion?
You vote on it
Okay.
since the question's been called.
Okay. Well, at this time, all council members in favor of voting yes signify by saying aye.
David, aye.
Any others? All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Peter says aye.
Justin says aye.
I abstain.
Okay, motion fails 1-3-1. You want to be recorded for your... Anyone want to be recorded?
Yeah, that's fine. You can record.
Okay.
I guess I think that the council does have a fairly good alignment on what we want to do within the different options. Once we get more information, I think if we answer a few questions, we'll be able to get on a pretty similar page. What I think would help to know is, because when you talk about getting prices for iPads, I'm assuming that will fall to me, which is fine. My question is, am I pricing a high-priced iPad or am I pricing a low-priced iPad? And the only way you can really know that is to know, is this one of your top priorities, such that you'll let other things not get funded to buy a more expensive iPad? Or is this a low-priority funding that basically buys the most expensive iPad you can with the money left over? So the last thing I'd like us to establish on this subject is to kind of get an idea of, because I listed to you guys what my priorities are. It would be helpful for me to know and to hear what the other council members' priorities are, so that we can have an idea of, because these things, let me put it this way, it's not like either you get an iPad for this amount of money or you get no iPad at all. There's a number of these things where we would have different options of what level of quality and expense we take on. So.
Yeah, it's a good point. I would, if anyone else feels like they'd like to share kind of their priorities, I'd let them go and do that now. Steven, is it possible to, I mean, I don't want to put too much work on you, but I do lean on you quite a bit for technology stuff anyways. Is there something where we could maybe price what would work for us for a high and a low? At least a ballpark, a little bit closer dollar amount?
Yes, but just know that to be clear, the low proposal would be the lowest I think would be viable. The high proposal would mainly be with the goal of spending money. So
Okay.
if the high proposal sticker shocks you, that would be the goal.
Okay.
I might do 3 to make it a little bit, because if you're telling me that at the end of the day we have $5,000 to spend, well, that's kind of more towards the high proposal. We're spending money because we have money type situation. It's ironic, just for the record, I'm sure we're probably all thinking this, but it's really ironic that we're talking about spending money because we have it, and yet there are other city expenses where we would really covet the ability to put this money to better use. It chafes me a little bit that we're put in this position to not be able to use money on things that would actually help the town to a greater degree. And that's the state's restrictions, not a function of our council, to be clear.
Well, I say going forward, obviously we could possibly be put in both those situations, so maybe I can work with you and we can get both a high and a low for what you think is feasible, and then on the other end of just spending money. Obviously, I agree that feels weird to say that, to spend money just because we have it, but if we get put in that position, or we are in that position, then we can get prices together for that route as well as some of the stuff for the sanitizing stations, the other stuff that we talked about, and maybe do the same thing with there. I can work with Scott and see, maybe what can be done, and then prices of just doing a little bit or doing a lot, and go from there.
This is Peter. I would propose that we have another special meeting to address these issues. Does a week give people enough time to accumulate data and information on what it would cost to renovate the toilets, what it would cost to get 5 or 6 laptops or what are they called, iPads?
Yeah.
And what it would cost to obtain a camera and omnidirectional microphone.
That's fine with me for doing my part. Steven, on the electronic stuff, is that enough time for you?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Scott, are you still with us? Oh, I'll get a hold of Scott and we can...
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, you and I can work on some of the bathroom stuff as well and get some...
Yeah, I was just thinking we can get, jet hair dryers instead of paper towels, or the option for automatic paper towels, automatic soap, that type of thing. That'd all be good. It qualify for COVID. I know it would.
Okay. Yeah, we can get together and work on that stuff then. So, Peter, to answer your question or to back that up, I think we can do that in a week. We planned on tentatively having a budget workshop next week. Is that something that the council would be okay with, as far as having another special meeting for this, and then either beforehand or after, then we can have our workshop for the budget?
Combine them.
I think we should start with the meeting portion and then move into workshops, so that if a person wants to attend on this, to hear this matter, they don't have to wait for however long the budget workshop might go to hear the business portion of it at the end of it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Can we shoot for 6 o'clock a week from now on the 28th? Is that going to work for everybody or not work for anyone? Okay, sounds like everyone's okay with that. So we'll tentatively plan on that as of now, and 6 o'clock. Get started early. We might be on both subjects for a little while, both the budget part and the special meeting. Okay, sounds like it's going to work. Alrighty, for tonight's meeting, there's just one other thing I have here. I got an email from Andy Tom, who's working on our wastewater treatment plant application for funding and update. And there's a couple of documents that he sent to me and needed to be signed. I don't know that I necessarily need to have approval or vote on it, but I wanted to just let you guys kind of give you an update, as well as being able to sign these documents and send them off. One of the documents is a DNS, which is a determination of non-significance, which is a document that just states both of them have to do with environmental stuff that he has to submit to Department of Ecology for the application for funding and for the project in general, should it go. So I'm trying to pull it up here so I can give you a little bit more on it, but I just wanted to let you guys know that those, see if you guys had any discussion or objections to signing those and sending them off. Both of those documents just explain what's going on, what the plan is, should we go forward with it, receive funding, what the environmental impacts with the project are. So that was just more of an FYI, but do you guys have any questions or comments on that? On either one of those? It's just part of the application that's being sent in, but he said that I should talk to the council with it and just see if you guys had any questions on them.
Does it require a motion for the mayor to sign?
I don't believe so, Peter. I mean, we could do that to be safe, but I don't believe so. It was just more of a FYI.
And could you jog my memory and remind me what SEPA means? The acronym SEPA? Is that
Yes,
an
it's this.
EPA document?
Yep, State Environmental Policy Act. It just has to do with. It just gives a lot of the information. They have a packet that they send out, and then we're required to answer those questions. The noise, and there's all kinds of different stuff. Andy has actually filled that out for us. He's just requiring a signature from myself, from us, to send them off to Ecology.
I would move that the mayor be authorized to sign the documents pertinent to the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Sure.
Is that Steven?
Second.
Okay.
Yep.
Any more discussion, comments, questions, concerns? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Peter says aye.
Aye.
Aye, Justin.
Aye, David.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you guys. I just wanted to, I don't know that we actually have to vote on that, but it's safe to do it anyways. I will sign those and get those off to Andy so then they can keep going and send them off to Ecology.
Hey, Nathan, were we going to discuss the credit card situation tonight? I saw an email from Jana.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so we cannot, with a special meeting, whatever's on the agenda, we have to stick to that. We will need to discuss that. We'll have to discuss it next week, make sure it's on the agenda.
Okie dokie.
And you can, I mean, you guys are obviously more than welcome to come in and talk to Janice in the hall or myself, either one, in the meantime. But we'll definitely have it on the agenda and address it next week. Okay, that is all I have for tonight.
Any public comments? Do we have anybody on the line from the public? Any visitors?
Looks like there's a couple, so if there is any public comment. Does not sound like there is any.
This is Justin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, so you'd asked earlier for recognizing visitors and no one recognized themselves or no one announced themselves, but for the minutes, we typically need to have those names of who attended, so maybe you can ask again, I guess, if you see people that are not the council that are on here.
Yeah, and they're definitely welcome to. They actually don't have to announce themselves, as far as I understand it. So if I can see just online, I can see some of them. If there's a name attached to the phone number. Otherwise, I don't think that it's legally required that they announce themselves. So we will report what we heard. But if there is any visitors who would like to announce themselves and be recognized, they can certainly do that at this time. Okay, well, I don't hear any.
This is Peter. I move to adjourn.
Okay, motion on the floor by Peter, second.
Second.
Okay, Levi's got a second. All in favor of adjourning 7:22, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. David, aye.
Peter says aye.
Aye.
Steven, did you get in there?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. All right, motion passes 5-0, and we will adjourn the meeting at 7:22. Thank you guys, appreciate it.